question.
So is it C?
Okay, this one is pretty obvious. Centriole is very clear. It's in animals, not in the plants. So it's not. It's very clearly we can remove centriole, and cell wall again pretty obvious. It is in plants. Centriole is in animals. Then we have two options, B and C. So when you take about B and C, this one lysosome, a little bit controversial because some textbook says plant also have lysosome. Animal anyway, lysosome is small membrane bound, let's say around uh, quite like a 100 nanometer range. Yes, 100 nanometer range, fluid filled, single membrane bound organelles. And when we consider about the plant cells, mostly the vacuoles, they can do this lysosomal function. As a result, uh, plants, it's very difficult to place lysosome as a organelle in typical cell. Now here we take plant cell and prokaryotic cells. So lysosome usually we can consider yes. They may have, they may not have in plant cells. Okay, then 70th ribosome we can find in plant cell, because plant cell mitochondria, it's important for us today, photosynthesis. If we take mitochondria and the uh, chloroplast, so this one is mitochondria and this one is a chloroplast. We can find 70th ribosomes in these both structures. And if you take bacteria, prokaryotic organism, they also have a 70s. I think it's better that we remember the 70th ribosome can find in chloroplast. It can find in mitochondria. It is also in the site of it's also in bacteria or prokaryotic cells. So then answer is actually the B for this one. Right. The reason is, if we look these three structure, that is chloroplast, mitochondria and the bacteria. we are learning why mitochondria and chloroplast have a 70th ribosome. Because typical eukaryotic cell, animal cells, eukaryotic cells, they have usually a 80S ribosome. It's a bigger, a large ribosome, but that is 80S. Only these three structures we have a 70S. Explanation for this is when the life is originated on Earth, the first appeared cell is a prokaryotic organism. Then after that, eukaryotic organism appeared or forms. When eukaryotic cell is formed, it is actually a slowly slow formation of the cell. Gradually, the eukaryotic cell formed. As a result of that, scientists explain this prokaryotic organism move into the eukaryotic organism, because prokaryotic organisms are smaller. They are range of like 0.5 micrometer, and eukaryotic cell typically around 20 to 100 micrometer range. So when these move into the eukaryotic cells, gradually it changed to the mitochondria and chloroplast. That's why they have this 70th ribosome, and this is explained as endosymbiotic theory. Symbiotic is a relationship between two organisms. The relationship is mutual beneficial. So then once it comes to chloroplast or mitochondria, they can do photosynthesis and respiration, and this organism is getting nutrition for their growth. So mitochondria and chloroplast slightly independent. They have own ribosome. They also have own DNA, circular DNA, and they can make their enzymes, most of the enzymes and other proteins for their survival. Okay, next question.
So is it A?
Uh, right, A belongs to mitochondria. Just chloroplast, and this one is nuclei. So it is common to all chloroplast, mitochondria, and nuclei. The semi-constitutive DNA replication. The meaning of semi-conservative DNA replication is one DNA molecule produce two DNA molecules. One DNA molecule produces two DNA molecule. The newly synthesized DNA molecule has one old strand and one new strand. So generally, we accept DNA replication take place uh, according to the semi-conservative replication. So then we can accept this answer as A. DNA replication take place as a semi-conservative replication. Yes. Right. The next question.
So C.
Yeah. We learned today chloroplast has ribosome. Mitochondrion is a plural. They have a ribosome, and it is also in a free floating form in cytoplasm, not Golgi, but is also attached to a RER, rough endoplasmic reticulum. Yes, C is the answer. Right, this is the last question covering the chapter 1, the cell.
Answer is B.
Yes, I think we can easily get the answer if we check if we are trying to get the real value of this one. It is 5 1 3 zeros. That's a 5000 micrometer. 5000 micrometer is again close to 5 millimeter. So we can't take this one, and this one is 500 micrometer. 500 micrometer is also quite large, and we take this one is a 1 nanometer. Mostly viruses come into the smallest in size, like nanometer range. So then we can exclude this answer, and we can get B as a right answer, and it say the first one is 1000 nanometer. 1000 nanometer is equal to 1 micrometer to 5 micrometer. It's ranging to 1 micrometer to 5 micrometer is pretty acceptable range for prokaryotes. Yeah, that's right. Okay, I think we have done chapter 1, some of the questions, exam questions. Next time we can continue chapter 2, 3, 4 like that, and we can start the new lesson of chapter 13. Today we're going to start photosynthesis. This is also not a big chapter, just like energy and aerobic respiration. It's a small chapter. Okay, referring to the notes, when we're trying to learn photosynthesis, we have some basic idea of photosynthesis. So we are used to this equation, carbon dioxide and water can produce glucose and also oxygen. So if you balance this equation, it's like this, the reactions, chemical reaction. And also we used to add something like energy from sunlight. Right. What else we have to learn in photosynthesis? If we already know that the process is like this, the energy is taken from sunlight, and carbon dioxide molecule and water molecule combine to make a glucose molecule. Right. When we are trying to learn this one, first thing is who can do photosynthesis. So photosynthesis mostly plants and some of the algae and some of the bacteria like cyanobacteria. So these belongs to different kingdoms: Plantae kingdoms, Productis kingdom, and the prokaryotes Monera. Like this, we just place the different kingdom. But if you take algae and cyanobacteria, uh, their significance is not very important, because some of the prokaryotes they do photosynthesis, then cyanobacteria. Some of the algae they are doing photosynthesis, not all protoctists. But plants, we can consider almost all plants they are doing photosynthesis, and they are valuable for the food chain as producers. Hence, we call if an organism can produce food by themselves, we call them autotrophs. The autotrophs, the meaning is the organism can produce food by themselves, and most of the other organisms they have to depend on autotrophs. So autotrophs are the producers. Right now, coming back, what else is important? If the plants are producing this photosynthesis process, why they are unique, and what is the unique organelle they have to produce photosynthesis is a very important question. Right. Another thing, if you get a piece of paper or book, you can also write something while we are talking, and then we can finish taking notes during the class, because we don't have too much notes. It is already given the questions and the pages in the note section and some of the information. Only few things we are adding to these pages. So before we move into the next, we just define these organisms. Uh, Organisms who can produce food by themselves. Right, next we're going to see
One,
what as hello.
so can you give me 1 second to copy that?
Yeah.
Okay.
You can see on the notes the photomicrograph of uh, the chloroplast. So this has been taken from the transmission electron microscope. So this transmission electron micrographs shows the structure of the chloroplast. So we should able to draw a chloroplast by using this photomicrograph, right? Uh, it has typical shape like this. and it has two membranes, that is outer membrane and the inner membrane. So inner membrane and the outer membrane. And then you can find there are some dark area inside the chloroplast, like these kind of areas. So we can draw these things like this kind of a disc. It's a collection of discs like this. And you can also notice these discs are connected again like this to each other. Most of them are connected. Right, you can also start drawing the structure and then we can start to label it. Right, what else we can find if we try to get a bigger picture of the chloroplast using electron microscope, and when careful analyzing of the other structures, we can find a small 70s ribosome and also the circular DNA. And
So there's a power cut.
right, how can you manage with the
Only so it's back. It's fine.
okay, apart from this disk and a line which is connecting this connection of disk, we can also find ribosomes and the circular DNA. So let's start now labeling them. This is 70S ribosome. This one is a circular DNA. Right. Now this disk has a name. One disk is called thylakoid. The thylakoid is the name given to a disk. When the uh, discs are joined together to make a column like this, we call it a granum, and the plural form is a grana. So this is a granum, that is a collection of thylakoids. The rest of the internal space is named as a stroma, because it is a semi-solid fluid which contain enzymes and other molecules. And sometimes we can also notice the starch grain. Here we don't see starch grain, but we can also notice a starch grain, a large white color structure which actually store starch inside these structures. Right, then uh, the membrane, it has two membranes, the inner membrane and the outer membrane. Then after that, rest of the important structures are thylakoid. Thylakoid make a collection called granum, and then it has a circular DNA, and the internal space is called stroma, and they have also 70 ribosomes, and then outer and inner membrane. So these six parts together with the starch grain 7, these 7 components are the main structures found in the chloroplast, right? Now question, why it is important to learn about chloroplast? Because photosynthesis takes place in chloroplast. So photosynthesis takes place inside the chloroplast. As a result of that, we have to learn the structure of the chloroplast. Right, if you look a plant leaf under the light microscope, we can see a chloroplast. So here the picture, you can see green color structure, that is a chloroplast. And usually the size of the chloroplast ranging from 3 micro 2 to 3 micrometer, and the width is around 5 micrometer. And the chloroplast is packed with this pigments, green color pigments. We can visualize under light microscope because of the intense green color help to visualize inside the cells. Right. Moving forward, we are going to look where exactly photosynthesis takes place in the chloroplast. Right. For that, we're going to move into this single thylakoid. So we're going to learn the structure of the thylakoid. Right. What is the white line of this thylakoid? Is it's a similar to cell membrane. They are membrane bound or small structures within the chloroplast. They have these membrane bound small structures. So if we consider chloroplast is an organelle, and this organelle is a little bit special, again inside chloroplast they have a membrane bound another sub organelles, that is a thylakoid.